Hey, good morning, Central. Hey, I want to start off our day together, opening up scripture, talking about God together, and really talk about enjoying God together. So, if you'd like to, I'm going to talk about a text from First Peter chapter 2, one of the few we'll look at, but this is really the one I'm going to hit home on. This idea of enjoying God and growing in that enjoyment. Our little daughter, Sophia, now 6 months old, if you can believe it. She's huge. She's triple her birth weight. It's incredible how fast she's growing. It looks like every day she's reaching a new milestone. At least that's what it feels like to be her parent. And one of the things that we've recently started doing is giving her solid foods, like the meshed food, the baby food containers that people give children. Well, I remember the first time we gave her this food. It was just a little thing of apples. And actually, I ate an apple that same day, just in honor of her to taste what she was tasting. And the first time she said anything besides milk, anything that's normal to you and I to eat every day. And I remember she was a little hesitant at first when we were putting this food into her mouth, and then she tasted the sweetness of it. And it was like suddenly she couldn't get enough of it. Suddenly she was reaching in a way that I didn't know she was capable of doing yet, opening her mouth and wanting more and more until we had to call it quits for her to no longer eat that. And every couple days it's been fun to add a different food, add something different for her to get her flavors going, experiencing a whole new thing of experiencing, of tasting. Now, I bring this up for a very special reason for us today. Uh, like Sophia tasting something she likes for the first time, one of the things that Scripture talks about of us enjoying God, of us being saved with God, is tasting His goodness. Now, one of the texts we won't look at is this is talked about in Psalm 34, this is talked about in Hebrews 6, but probably the biggest part and the most clearest text that we can look at on this is found in 1 Peter chapter 2. So I'm going to look at these first few verses. I'm going to read part of this text for us. 1 Peter chapter 2, and starting in verse 2. Like newborn infants, you must crave pure spiritual milk, in order that you may thrive upon your soul's health, if indeed you have tasted that the Lord is good. Tasting that the Lord is good. And not just that you have experienced this, but now that you have, crave it even more. In other words, once you have seen, once you have tasted, once you have experienced that the Lord is good, crave it all the more as you grow in your salvation. See, there is this idea in Scripture that God is still saving us. Those who are on the way to heaven, like myself, because God has saved me, I am still being saved day by day. In fact, in Philippians chapter 2, verses 12 and 13, one of the things that the Apostle Paul says is that he is at work within us, and that we are called to work out our salvation. That the goodness of God is at work in our lives, and as we're craving this, as we're growing out in our salvation, the Lord is providing us with more and more of His goodness, of the goodness that we taste. And one of the strange things about this, one of the reasons I love this imagery in Scripture, is that until you have tasted it, it's not quite describable. Till you've experienced this kind of joy that comes with the goodness of God, you can't describe it. It might be comparable to me saying, trying to describe to my daughter the taste of apple before she tries it. We're trying to describe to someone who's only ever had salty bread why cake is so tasty, why ice cream is so tasty, why Dr. Pepper is so tasty. How do I go about describing those things to someone who has no comparison to it? It's one of the reasons I love this imagery. Psalm 34 says it quite plainly, taste and see that the Lord is good. So here is my challenge for us as we're looking at what this means for us, as we're talking about growing up in our salvation, as we're talking about enjoying the Lord's goodness. Crave Him more and more. And what you'll find is that the more you enjoy Him, the more you seek after Him, the more you crave Him, the more and more you'll be able to enjoy it. In fact, the quickest way to a miserable faith is to seek to do only that which you seem as absolutely necessary. To start approaching the scriptures, start approaching your own life by only asking the question, what must and only do I have to do? So I don't approach any of my relationships like that. I don't go up to my wife and say, hey, what do I have to do today in order for you to stay married to me? Now, part of the enjoyment and part of the receiving is in giving. It is in giving that we receive. And whoever seeks to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for Christ's sake will find it. Taste and see that this new way of living is good. I love the old hymn, how precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. I sing this to our daughter as I'm trying to put her to sleep, and then until I give up and Mallory puts her to sleep. Sometimes she falls asleep for me. But that phrase has always stood out to me. I do enjoy it. I mean, the goodness and the grace of God did appear great the hour I first believed, but really that was just the taste of it. That was the beginning. It's not like I tried my mom's apple pie for the first time, and once I realized I really liked it, I had just thought about how good that day was for the rest of my life. No, the rest of my life, every time we meet up with my mom, I want her to make me cheesy potatoes. I want her to make me an apple pie with that crust on it the way that she does it. Why is that the case? Because once I've tasted that it's so good, I want it more and more. The church has actually developed this idea a little bit further, and they've said that what we've actually trained ourselves to do, what we've trained our palates, our taste buds to do, is to enjoy the things of the world, and what we need to do is refashion them, renew our minds, so that we can learn to enjoy the goodness of God. There's a lot there that I'm going into. There's a lot with this imagery. I hope you talk about it amongst yourselves. I hope you discuss it. What does it look like in your life to taste that the Lord is good? Perhaps one of the things that you need to pray for this morning, one of the things that I need to pray for this morning, is that I would crave it more, and so I can enjoy it. Just one more final thought with this. When I enjoy something, and I enjoy doing it, sometimes my desire for that thing grows. If I can describe what I think heaven will be like, and this is the way that the church for centuries has described it, it's like tasting something new every day and enjoying it more and more. If there is no end to the goodness of God, and we will experience His goodness in heaven, then it must follow that for all of eternity, we will experience more and more and more of His goodness. What a foretaste, if I could use that word, of glory, to taste and see that the Lord is good, to have it here on earth as it is in heaven, to learn to enjoy the Lord. And to be quite frank, it takes time to learn to enjoy Him for some, for many, for myself. But once you have tasted it, it's a lifelong journey of joy. Have a blessed day, church.